What's up, guys? This is Jay from COI. So, I want to talk about Obamagate. And the reason why it's picked up in the news recently has been because of some documents that were released that showed that the FBI had already formed a conclusion before they talked to Michael Flynn. And in these documents, it actually shows the goals that they had, that they were going to try to get him to commit perjury, or that they were going to get him to admit to the Logan Act. But that was their destination. They already had it set before they even talked to him. And the messed up thing about it is they already had the tapes. They knew who he talked to and what was said. But if that seems a little bit dicey to you, let's just start way back at the beginning with the FBI and their appeal for the FISA investigation for the warning. And Inspector General Michael Horowitz actually testified on his finding of the FISA application and how the FBI failed to meet that. And I'll play that now.
Statute and Department and FBI policies and procedures have established important safeguards to protect the FISA application process from irregularities and abuse. Among the most important are the requirements in FBI policy that every FISA application must contain a, quote, full and accurate, close quote, presentation of the facts, and that agents must ensure that all factual statements in FISA applications are, quote, scrupulously accurate, close quote. These are the standards for all FISA applications, regardless of the investigation's sensitivity, and it is incumbent upon the FBI to meet them in every application. Nevertheless, we found that investigators failed to meet their basic obligations of ensuring that the FISA applications were scrupulously accurate. We identified significant inaccuracies and omissions in each of the 4 applications, 7 in the first application, and a total of 17 by the final renewal application. For example, the Crossfire Hurricane team obtained information from Steele's primary subsource in January 2017 that raised significant questions about the reliability of the Steele reporting. This was particularly noteworthy because the FISA applications relied entirely on information from the primary subsource's reporting to support the allegation that Page was coordinating with the Russian government on 2016 U.S. presidential election activities. However, the FBI did not share this information with department lawyers, and it was therefore omitted from the last 2 renewal applications.
So there, you have it right there. That is Michael Horowitz saying, look, the FBI, number one, they lied to the FISA court. They lied to get their warrants to be able to investigate these cases, and the information that they had was substandard. It wasn't enough. And I know that this case is really, it's dicey, because if you're on the left, Trump works with Russia, blah, blah, blah. If you're on the right, you've known a lot of this for a while, but people on the left, I ask you to remove the R, the D, and just think about if this was an incoming president, let's say if it was Joe Biden, and the Trump administration had did this or was doing this to Biden. Let's go back real quick to the things that we do know. That the Trump Tower was wiretapped. The FBI basically had a spy join the Trump team. A lot of people forget about that. And it all started because an Australian diplomat told George Papadopoulos Russia may have information that would help Trump. That's it. That little bit right there, that was what started this whole thing. And it seems ludicrous that this entire investigation was set up by those words. No details at all. When there was investigation into them, there was barely anything found. And so, where this kind of comes from is, and I'm sure you've heard the names, Peter Strzok. It really comes from him. A lot of it started and ended with him, as we had seen in the text messages that he had with his mistress, Lisa Page. Strzok had basically said to her when she asked, "What if Trump wins?" He said, "He won't. We won't let him," which is damning because he's an FBI agent, and get this, he was one of the FBI agents that was questioning Michael Flynn. He was one of them who was trying to entrap Michael Flynn in all of this. Furthermore, what we do know about Michael Flynn's conversation with Kislyak was it was just pretty much normal. In fact, almost no collusion whatsoever had went down, and no collusion between Russia and the Trump team. Now, there was collusion, by the way, and this gets forgotten quite a bit. The only collusion that was found was actually between the Trump team and Israel, as Michael Flynn did ask Kislyak to have Russia veto a UN um, uh, suggestion that was coming. I can't think of the proper term. A resolution, sorry, a UN resolution that would have basically, it was highly critical of Israel's building, and they're building towards Palestine. And that was it. Michael Flynn asked Kislyak to have Russia veto that because Obama was just going to let it happen. He was going to let that resolution go through. The Trump team working with Israel as they do. That was the collusion. Trump and Israel, not Trump and Russia. And by the way, not that they should have been doing that. That is way different than Trump colluding with Russia to win an election. Um, I don't think they should have been, you know, working with Israel either or any team before you're set in place. But whatever. I mean, again, that's tiny. Um, but so the documents that do show that the FBI and they were released. I have images on here and they're really bad. I think you can find better images. But they do highlight exactly what the FBI was trying to get Flynn to do. Um, and like I said, it was perjury, Logan Act. They were trying to get him on those things. And by the way, the reason why is because prior to this, after the FBI had already investigated the situation, they decided they were going to end it. But Peter Strzok was the one who wanted to keep pushing, keep finding more. And he kind of fell upon this Logan Act. And he was like, hey, wow, we got this Logan Act thing I can get into. It's not been used since before the Civil War, but I can catch Michael Flynn on this because I know that he was talking to Kislyak. Um, then he called Michael Flynn in. They did that meeting, and Flynn ultimately lied to him. And that's the one important thing to take away as well, is that Michael Flynn didn't help himself. Like, he went for RT's 10th anniversary. This is one of the ways that they tied, the dots together, is that Michael Flynn went to RT's, 10th anniversary in Russia and took a payment to speak. But by the way, everyone there addressed him as the Obama general because at the time he's working for Obama, he was a general. That's the only way people knew him. They didn't know him as Michael Flynn. He wasn't popular. He wasn't famous. Yeah, you're grasping at straws if that's your connection. And I mean, namely, one of the big reasons why this is such an issue is because the FBI continued to investigate, knowing full well that they had nothing. and that their whole entire case hinged on one little thing, and it was this conversation that Michael Flynn had lied about. And he did lie. There's no doubt about it. But you know who else lied? As we just proven? The FBI. Peter Strzok. They all lied. And the other thing, we also know the FBI lied about, like, Carter Page. They lied to the FISA courts. And this was all done to set up the incoming administration. And that's why it's a big problem. Because, yes, I understand that the left and right don't like each other, but come on. I don't even know if we're going to play these kind of games. What's the point? Just split the country in half. I mean, that's really how this is turning out. And the fact that the media is not covering this, and I understand just my breakdown of it was probably really confusing and hard to follow. And I was in on this, trust me. Like 2 years ago, I was, at first, yeah, I thought Trump was working with Russia. I admit it. I was one of those people who got duped. The more and more I looked into it, the more and more I researched, I was like, no, this is bullshit. But it has been this percolating event that, yeah, there's multi-layers, and it is kind of hard to understand. The most important takeaway is that, again, Trump towers were wiretapped. They shouldn't have been wiretapped. Why were the FBI investigating them? There was no purpose for it. When we find out why the FBI was investigating them to begin with, we find out, oh, it wasn't even proper. The FISA court application or the FISA court shows that the application was not valid. Subpar information. They shouldn't have been doing it in the first place. And then we find out, oh, well, this is all pushed by one guy, this Peter Strzok. And we look a little bit further, find out that Obama and Flynn did not like each other. And more so, Obama didn't like Flynn. I don't think Flynn really much anything to Obama. But do you know why Obama didn't like Flynn? Because in 2012, Flynn's team wrote a report saying that Obama and his continued allying, if that's a word, where he was arming what was called the moderate rebels in Syria, was actually creating more ISIS members. And that basically happened. And so Obama did not like hearing that. And it's completely true, that's what he did. Another Bible, another way, another proxy war that every administration has done. But Michael Flynn called him out on it, and that's what's, one of the big takeaways. Not long after he called him out on that, Obama had him fired. And then it seemed like Obama was targeting him because this was a huge, huge, huge case that was kind of being swept under the rug again. Obama, and look, I want to be clear to people on the other, well, Bush did it too. Yeah, they all do it, okay? All 100% do it, but I'm not for it when anyone does it. But yeah, he had him fired, and now kind of singled him out through this whole thing. Has him set up. And why is it ultimately Obamagate? Is because there was unmasking, so to speak. There was a conversation with Sally Yates. Joe Biden was involved, and it looks like Obama was involved in this as well. And that's really what this is, why it's called Obamagate. I think the major takeaway, though, honestly, should be Michael Flynn was set up. And furthermore, we have horrible, horrible journalists in our country. Remember, Rachel Maddow made this a thing for 2 years. I mean, that's without a doubt what happened. Every night you would turn into MSNBC and it was Trump Russia. I remember watching a segment called "What If Trump had become a Russian, basically a Russian bot back in 1987. What if? What the fuck are you doing? It's not news. There is newsworthy things to cover. Uh, it's just one of those things that the media is not really talking about, and they're making it look like conspiracy theory. It's not. It's not. This was all done by the Obama team, and to try to set up Trump and to make him look worse than what he is. And ultimately, they didn't need to do that. There was a lot of other stuff to get Trump on, a lot of other stuff to investigate, but this is again, one thing I'm going to mention too that you're probably not going to hear about is something called Fast and Furious. Um, no, not the shitty movies, but it was a military operation in Mexico that was orchestrated by the Obama administration. And what they did was they had purchased weapons illegally in America and then shipped them down to Mexico and gave them to a certain cartel that they liked more than the other cartel. And namely, when you look into the second cartel, it was because they were starting to liberate their people, and in fact, convincing many people to not work in border towns where they make TVs and phones, and basically it's third world over there. Like, right across the border is where a lot of electronics are made, just like in China. And that is completely due to NAFTA and to the Obama administration, big corporations, and this cartel was trying to liberate their people and say, don't work for pennies on the dollar, don't sacrifice yourself for that. So what did Obama do? He gives a bunch of illegal weapons to the cartel that they were opposing. And by the way, that investigation is going to be reopened by Mexico, I believe, in the next couple of days. Just another thing that, look, if you're a liberal, you believe that President Obama is the greatest president of your lifetime. And the reality is you're wrong. They don't make one of those. But I mean that there is no greatest president of your lifetime. It may be Jimmy Carter. I don't know. I don't know what I got. FDR, he was pretty good in a lot of ways. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. You have a good one.